I'm standing in Horace Walpole's ancestral library. It was built in 1754 and is probably the most Gothic room in Strawberry Hill. To visitors in the 18th century, it must have felt they were walking back into the 15th century. The bookcases and chimney piece are spectacular, and the designs are based on doorways and tombs from great medieval churches. The ceiling is painted with the history of the Walpole family stretching back to the Crusades. The painting of Marriage of Henry VI and some of the painted glass in the windows reminds us of the Wars of the Roses. It's all very Gothic. There are books on classic Latin texts, French literature, Shakespeare and other English poets, books on theology, travel and history. Also, there's something on his special interests: Gothic design, heraldry, genealogy, antique objects. Walpole wasn't a collector of books per se. He had books to read them and use them. It was a working library. After Walpole's death, the library remained unchanged until 1842, when in the Great Auction, all the contents of the house, including all the books, were sold. After the house was restored a few years ago and reopened in 2010, these shelves were completely empty. We've been very fortunate and been lent and given enough books to once again fill this library. And these books have the appearance, the feel, even the smell of old books. They are old books, and the content of many of them is the same as Walpole had. Many of them are actually the same titles. My personal interest in the books in this library started 4 years ago, when I was here when we opened a consignment of 100 boxes full of old books. I pulled them out, opened the books, and that was it. I was completely hooked. I've got many favourites, but we have a 30-volume natural history written by a French aristocrat called the Comte de Buffon in the late 18th century. And this was his life's work, this series of books, and the most beautiful illustrations.
We're doing a preventive library clean throughout July, and we have volunteers and students helping with the project. So we'll be taking down the books individually and removing the dust from them and looking at their condition. So we'll be taking the books off the shelf, we'll be kind of recording their location, we'll be dusting them with a brush, and then we'll be inputting some information into a spreadsheet that's already been in place with all the data of the catalogue of the library. We did have a training day with the students and volunteers, so even simple things like the proper ways to take a book off a shelf, avoiding the headband of the book really in the boards, that's just a basic technique that we've learned. We'll also be using brushes, so a soft hair brush, and we'll be kind of cleaning that dust off of the text block and off of the covering material. And then we'll be using conservation hoovers to clean up that dust. And we'll have little kind of trays, dust trays around us. Sometimes when there's spines or boards that are partially detached of the book, we'll be using a conservation kind of cotton tape to tie around to keep that material together and to prevent it from becoming disassociated. We found a book that had a little bit sticking out along the edges of something, and when we opened it, it was a really lovely just little graphite drawing that was just slid into the book. So often when you're looking through libraries, you often find things within the book. So hopefully we'll find more little bits of the books, the histories.
It's 5 years since we last cleaned the books in this library, so it's time to do it again.